Hey everyone, so I wanted to talk a little bit about my own artistic practice and my creative work, so you have a little bit more of an idea of where I'm coming from and some of the skills that I utilize in my daily practice as far as making art and also working professionally in photography and design. So I'm going to share a few things with you and sort of give you some insight to my personal background. So I'm going to get out of here. Right. So I grew up in Kansas City, but my family originally lived on the Kansas side or on the Missouri side. And then when I was in about fifth grade, they decided to move to the Kansas side because of better schools, better opportunities for my brother and myself. And they actually built their own house in a suburban subdivision, and I'm showing you a picture of my house actually in process of being built that I scanned in, and it was a really kind of life-changing experience for me, and it caused me to sort of think a lot differently about what it means to live in the suburbs on the edge. So there was that part of it, and the other really interesting thing is that I was sort of forced to reassess, the value of material things and how the way that we consume defines our identity. So I moved to this new school district, and a lot of my peers, all the other students, they had a lot more things than me. They had a lot bigger houses, and I thought I was, quite privileged to live in a house that my family built. But I spent a lot of time thinking and observing sort of what designer clothes or designer bags meant to my peers and not quite understanding all of that. And maybe some of you guys relate to that, and maybe some of you all embrace it. The other part of growing up is that sort of has influenced my work is that my mom really loved going to the mall with me, taking me shopping, and as soon as I showed any kind of interest whatsoever in clothes, we would go to the clearance rack at Kohl's or JCPenney and try to find new clothes for me, because I was finally at a point where I wasn't wearing the same shirt with a picture of a dog on it every day, which was really quite groundbreaking. So this kind of history and background shaped sort of who I am today and shapes a lot of my interests in my own art making practice. After graduating high school in Kansas City, I went to undergrad and studied art, political science, and Spanish at Trinity University in San Antonio, and then spent a year working and living and making art in Austin. And after that, I went to Washington University in St. Louis for my master's in fine arts and visual art, and now I'm very happy to be here in Chicago. So I'm going to share with you a few of my projects that I've worked on over the last 10 years on the topic of malls. I'm going to play back this video for you guys. Hopefully that works. I've spent quite a bit of time filming and documenting the inside of indoor malls, and specifically mostly dead malls or malls that are really declining. This one is Charlestown Mall in St. Charles, Illinois, not too far from the Chicago area. And I'm just really fascinated, thinking back to my own experience growing up, but also just witnessing times when malls were really active and full of people, and it was an event and an experience to go shopping at the mall, and then seeing them, really for the architectural remnants and forms that have been left behind. So I've documented these, and if you listen in on the audio, which I can play back, of course, it's ABBA. I've taken recordings inside of the same malls and included them in the video. So you actually get the actual mall soundtrack that the mall is playing to itself as it's sort of dying. So perfect. So I've made several of these videos looking at malls in the Midwest, and what's really fascinating to me is I feel like capitalism, we talk a lot about how, oh, the malls are dying, dead malls, death of retail, which is this sort of like super exaggeration in my opinion. I think the interesting thing about capitalism is that it's constantly changing and evolving and kind of finding new ways to entice consumers and shoppers. And if you think about lifestyle photography, lifestyle branding, the way that you consume the material things that you have, the outfits you can post pictures of yourself on Instagram, sort of define who you are, define your online presence, more and more and more. Whereas the experience of going to the mall, the experience of shopping is a lot different even than that, because it was sort of an escape, a way to walk in and out of stores, meet up with your friends. And here, of course, we can see the history and the architecture of these malls, but they're certainly not as vibrant as they used to be. So feel free to watch those other videos that I've put together. This one in particular, Metcalf South Mall, in my hometown has since been demolished, and now there's, of course, a Lowe's and a Walmart and a parking lot in its place, which is quite sad. But there's another side to my work which focuses on kind of inserting an absurdist performance into a given environment, like the suburbs, the exurbs, and really playing this trickster character that kind of turns these settings that are already a little bit eerie in how banal they are, kind of transforms these spaces into stages for ridiculous performance. So if I go to, my Vimeo here, I can show you a few clips of this one called Edgetown, Town Edge, where I dress up as a tightrope walker and make my way through the cornfield into this suburban housing development and kind of stretch, get ready for that, and then kind of tumble topsy-turvy along the street. And interestingly, while I have a lot of inspiration from contemporary performance artists like Marina Abramovich, Laurie Anderson, I also derive a lot of inspiration from contemporary pop music videos by Lady Gaga and Katy Perry and Dua Lipa. I think that these are some of the most interestingly produced, highest production possibilities that, elevate that performer and can really create interesting spaces within a relatively short period of time, and imply a narrative instead of it having to be a whole film that plays back in front of you. The story can be said within the 3 minutes and 30 seconds of a pop song. So I filmed this video, Edgetown, Town Edge, at a exurban development that's 60% vacant outside of St. Louis, and I did this whole tightrope walking act along along the middle of where these garage doors kind of butt up, and lose my balance a couple of times. I'm definitely wearing 6-inch heels and trying to make it feel and seem as absolutely absurd as possible. So, and at the end, I get to the edge and sort of disappear off to the distance. Another interesting performance, sort of playing out this character idea is in this video called The Commons, where I actually run through, while wearing a Grecian dress and tennis shoes, I run the 2 miles of the longest strip mall in the country. And this actually exists outside of St. Louis in a suburb called Chesterfield. So maybe some of you guys are from St. Louis or have visited. I ran through and was filmed by a Jeep, and it becomes all of a sudden this endurance feat just to get through and to the edge of the strip center. And it's kind of ridiculous, kind of absurd. I never pause or break. And yeah. And you might be wondering, why is there so much parking lot here? Why is this so hyper-developed? Well, this is actually a floodplain, and the developers decided to create this massive parking lot in order to run off the water from flooding. So that is the perfect excuse to have a Lowe's, a Home Depot, Dick's Sporting Goods, a Panda Express, all of the things that you absolutely need in a strip mall. So I also really like thinking about how there are so many spaces that we experience or we go through in kind of a transient or sort of traipsing through frame of mind. For example, metro stations, airports, bus stops, where your mind can kind of wander, or you don't really think about the space as being a destination ever. So I decided to kind of play this, do this performance in a main mecca of the Los Angeles airport, and I perform a series of breathing exercises and yoga moves in like the middle of this space. And interestingly, over the course of the 12 minutes that I'm doing this, I think this is the only guy that came up to me and was like, "Hey, you okay there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm totally good." And really the rest of the time, people might look for a second, but no one really stops. People kind of just go along with what they're trying to do. And I continue doing yoga poses, up dog, down dog, and not very well, by the way. I need to get better at my yoga skills. It would probably be a very healthy thing for me to look into. But the character all of a sudden really activates this space, which was kind of, my intent in doing this. And they say, "I don't know, whatever." So those are a few examples of some of the performance art pieces that I've done. And in the last several years, I've actually gone full on, thinking about pop music route with the character JaNae, who is a pop singer, pop star, aspiring pop star, but she sings about architecture, about the ridiculous ways in which people shop and consume, and she loves dressing up in 1980s, 1960s sort of outfits that are stand-in symbols for when females entered the workforce in a really real way, the 80s working girl kind of aesthetic. And she sings pop music. So this is the JaNae music website. We were just on my Vimeo and JaNaeContag.com. And I've been spending a lot of time during quarantine live streaming episodic shows under the name Saturday alongside my creative partner, Ryan, aka Blizzle. So all of the episodes are here. You can find them on YouTube. I'll play a clip in a little bit. And I also this year put out a kind of hilarious music video called Dacron Duvet. So I'll play a little bit from that. And of course, there has to be a 1980s workout room in a 1980s music video. So that's sort of the latest iteration of this character. She has her own Instagram. She plays live, and it's great. What's really exciting also is that I can't speak enough about how crucial and important it is for you to find a creative community. And the reason I say that is I would never be able to do this or produce all of this content, all of this music, without the amazing folks that I've found to work with at REB Records and my creative partner as well. So last year, something that kind of spurred on all of the collaboration was a project called First Contact by Black's Backbone, where our band, Black's Backbone, of which JaNae is a part of and plays synthesizers, we did a show series at a huge theater in Wilmette where we essentially created original video games with our band member who is a creative developer and computer programmer. He developed all of these video games in Unity, and we were able to incorporate them in the show in a way where audience members could actually control and VJ the show, like Rob is right over here, by playing these interactive games while we performed, and really taking the idea of an immersive experience, an immersive show, to the next level in that sense. So it was really cool. It's a lot of indie electronic music. And the great part was, if I said, hey, Nathan, can you build a whole video game? I'll create the video for it. I'll take screenshots from Google. Can you turn this into a whole video game about shopping at a strip mall? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So it was a really phenomenal experience. So pushing forward and with the JaNae project, which has been really, really exciting. And I think a quick note, especially since I'm going to talk a little bit more about the work that we've been doing during quarantine, I absolutely struggle with anxiety, and maybe some of you guys struggle with anxiety as well. And it can really create these kind of dark spaces in your day where you don't really feel like you can get up or do anything, or you're anxious because you're like, oh my God, is the world ending, or what's going on? And of course, like during really difficult times in the world and, difficult times personally, it can be really debilitating for the creative process. And so I've really been trying to be super intent about scheduling in those creative hours and really making the most of those in my own daily routine. And that's helped me a lot, especially over the last couple of months, to, really deal with, confront, and also kind of try to heal through the trauma and anxiety that's been very, very much at the forefront over the last few months for me. So maybe you guys relate to that, but that's absolutely my biggest creative challenge and the biggest sort of hurdle that I'm constantly, every day, still trying to kind of figure out. So one of the most exciting parts of quarantine, and the thing that's been really wonderful for learning how to get through that, has been staying up late and writing whole, ambient synth albums just with a synth app on my iPad, or writing new songs or new music. And the biggest project has been our live stream series called Saturday, where we're performing as characters. We've transformed, as you can see behind me, we've transformed our whole second floor into a live stream stage. And here you can see us kind of dancing, doing our thing, and singing, again, about very ridiculous things.
Pumpkin sugar that you didn't ask for. You think you can tell me what it's good for. Sweetening the sugar thing, then pumping all the energy. Sugar, baby, daddy, muffin, honey, cupcake, pumpkin, pumpkin, sweet as syrup,
So it's been really awesome having a platform where we can actually interact with people and talk to people and just have a really great time. It's just been an awesome release, and also just a phenomenal project to work on, learning the music, learning all the parts, and doing it all live with analog equipment. So it's been super fun. And Ryan has a background in audio production and teaches it as well at Columbia College in the city. So the last piece to this is I really love building and creating immersive spaces, whether that's, the live show where audience members are playing video games and really contributing to that experience, and it's a whole theater screen, so it's sort of like automatically very immersive. But I also like building physical immersive spaces, and this is a piece that I had in a show just a couple years ago in St. Louis, where I thought it would be awesome to build a 1980s themed immersive music video viewing room where people could walk in and both view a JaNae music video, but then also like relax in this luxury, fake luxury couch, this fake faux luxury rug, and it all of a sudden is this room that looks entirely different than any of the other rooms in the whole gallery space. So that was really fun. But I think part of the impulse there is, it's kind of nice to have this like escape, this magical, amazing stage to escape to that I've created, or this magical, like creative cocoon here in this room, because you can kind of literally wall out the rest of the world and all the stresses that causes anxiety to flare up. So, cool. So that's a little bit about my artistic practice, and I wanted to speak briefly about my commercial practice as well. You guys, I use art, design, photography, all of that in my daily practice. And what's wonderful about it is, you can use these skills to make art for yourself, for the world, for culture. You can also use your camera, use your design skills to make money, which is awesome because there's a lot of people out in the world who really value these skills. And so I have a commercial photography practice where I freelance images for, sort of lifestyle, people, all this good stuff. Some of it's been featured on online blogs. These folks are great. Corporate headshots, all of that good stuff. My website is kind of a sampling of all of that work. I also love photographing interiors, architecture, and to be totally honest, I am trying to learn more and more each and every day about how to do this better, how to improve my editing process on a personal level, and how to really just create beautiful, beautiful images, and then sort of market them in a way, market my own services in a way that's valuable to other people and companies, realtors, whoever that might be. So it's totally a learning process, and I'm super excited to share some of that and some of those tools with you guys. I also work for a team called Goldgrid Studios. This is our webpage, and it's 3 of us. This is my sort of primary photo gig in addition to my freelance work. But I work with 2 other women, and we run the whole business side, the marketing side, and do all of the photography ourselves, both doing corporate events, commercial events, and headshots. So this is our website and a little bit of the work here. But the really exciting thing about Goldgrid Studios is that the company was actually founded by a woman named Rebecca, who is, let's see if I can find a picture of her here. She is a DePaul grad from about 10 or 11 years ago. And so if you're wondering, what are DePaul alumni doing? Are they still in Chicago? What are DePaul, like, what's everyone up to? She is doing amazing things, and really by founding and running the company on the business side, she's really got it together. So as I mentioned before, I'm constantly learning and trying to get better at a lot of different things, it seems like, simultaneously. And that's really exciting for me. But talking about creative community, finding those people who inspire you, who you can learn from, who you can work with collaboratively, getting to work with Rebecca and Vanessa has just been an awesome experience with Goldgrid Studios. So yeah, check out that work. Okay, this is the last couple things I wanted to talk about. The fun part about being a photographer is getting to go photograph like large conventions or large events. And I pulled this photo up because our team photographed the Salesforce Conference last year as it happened at McCormick Place. And for this photo, I actually went up inside of a big kind of cherry picker thing with my camera and my tripod and took this photograph before all of the fireside chats started up during the conference schedule. And it's that kind of exhilarating experience, like the fun of that, or being a part of a larger conference, the learning that happens in these events that just makes it super, super fun. And I mean, this whole experience was just awesome. So yeah, woo, Salesforce. You get to learn as a photographer, as a designer, if you're working with other companies, you get to learn quite a bit about what other folks are doing in their industries, which is also, as someone who likes to learn and likes to teach, it's very exciting for me. Yeah, so with that, oh yeah, here are some photos. I didn't quite get to this. These are some photos that we took in the basement for a more space-themed live stream episode. You know, once you understand lighting and what you can do with that, and kind of the idea of setting something up and making something ridiculous, hilarious, exciting, weird, eccentric, something that kind of looks at the world, or, you know, creates a character or whatever that might be, these tools are really quite liberating and a lot of fun to work with. So I am so excited to share these tools with you and information with you, but that's just a little bit about me and where I'm coming from and some of my work. Feel free to reach out, ask any other questions that you might have, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys each week in our online class. Thank you so much.